everybody. My name is Susan Bontly. Can you see that screen? It looks like I lost my sharing screen. What do you see?
I see your PowerPoint and you. So
I see
Okay.
PowerPoint.
All right, I just wanted to make sure because normally the screen is in green. It's outlined in green, and I'm like, it went away as soon as you hit the recording, and so did I lose that? Okay. Hello, I'm Susan Bontly, and welcome. This is the first of a series of DACC Library presentations for the summer. Today's topic is resources for readers, and I have a lot of resources, and so we are going to move at a pretty fast clip. First of all, I'd like to introduce Jose Aranda. He's another instructional librarian at East Mesa campus, and he will be my technical support, which means that he will go ahead and answer any question, or if you're having difficulty hearing or something else, you can put it in the chat and he will try and help you as best he can. This presentation is being recorded, and both the slides in the recording and a resource list will be posted in our library presentations page. We will give you the links during the presentation, so you'll know where to go. Also, please make sure your microphone is muted so as not to disturb the presentation. And if you have any questions, enter them into the chat and we'll pause along the way and address any questions that come up. So let's get started. And I think I should have, there we go. Anyway, there's getting prepared for us. Everything I just said. Our overview is we're going to look at local libraries, meaning here in Las Cruces. Then we're going to look at some other New Mexico libraries that are available to people who live in New Mexico. We're going to talk a little bit about New Mexican authors and books set in New Mexico. I'm going to talk a little bit about some websites that can give you reading lists. Then there's a whole genre of websites that are recommendation and review websites, and I'm going to highlight a few of those. And then last, we're going to finalize the presentation with a couple of other resources that you may or may not be aware of. And all of these, like I said earlier, the slides and the resource list and the recording will be available on our presentations research guide page once the recording is finished and has been made ready to be viewing. Local libraries. We are going to look at DACC, obviously, the public library, Thomas Branigan, and then just briefly, we're going to talk about what NMSU has to offer readers. I am going to go ahead and switch to the website for both DACC and Thomas Branigan. So let me stop sharing and move to where I need to go. You should now see the DACC library homepage. We've talked about this in many of our presentations, and the link will be in the chat to get there. I'm just going to point out two features here related to reading, specifically pleasure reading, whether or not your pleasure is fiction or nonfiction. The first thing is that Gale products, which are one of our two major vendors for online products, does have a accessibility to New Mexico residents. And we have that information on our website. The way you get to it is you would go ahead and you could click databases. And this particular tab will come up. And then under here, you can select Gale ebooks for all New Mexico residents. And once you go there, you're going to get into the Gale database, and you'll have several several different choices to make. If we go over back to, I'm flip-flopping between the two. So this is what I just showed you. And then the other one is the new titles, which is found at the bottom of our homepage. And it is a carousel of new titles that have been added that we as a library have purchased. And they include ebooks, and they can include DVDs as well as print books. So any of those are available, and you can go ahead and click on them, and it will go to the library catalog and give you a description and more information on how to check it out. So those are the two ways that New Mexico residents can access the DACC resources. If the online book is not part of the Gale ebooks, you won't be able to look at it. But if it is, it will be part. It will come up, and you can read it online, or you can download it to your device and have it checked out for a period of time. This is just one way to keep up with what new products and new materials, ebooks, reading books, other nonfiction books, and DVDs that the library purchases, and keep you abreast about the new things that we currently have. Now for Thomas Branigan, I'm going to take you to this page, and I'm going to show you exactly how to get to this. This is the Thomas Branigan homepage. And as you can see, there's a lot of information here. They have a carousel too of information that you could look through, of events going on. There's more information down below about the library and everything. But I would like to point out that over here on the left-hand side is the digital library, because we're going to be focusing a lot on ebooks as opposed to and e-resources as opposed to physical items. So your digital library, when you click on that link, you're going to get this page, which talks about all sorts of different digital possibilities that you can get if you have a Thomas Branigan Public Library card, which I would highly recommend you go ahead and get, because those that will open up a whole new world of reading online. And you can read it on a phone. If you've got a smartphone, you can read it on a tablet or an iPad. You can read it even on a desktop if you want to. So there are many ways you can access these, and there's a whole bunch of free reading is one, FreeGal, there are apps that you need to download. But there's a whole list here of things that you could get. And also, they also have a list of new titles that they get. And you will need to get to that by going to your account. And you're going to end up logged into this page. I didn't log in, but on the featured list over here, you're going to see what new fiction the library has got, all these different categories. So if you're interested in learning to see what new children's books are out there, that they have available. You could click there, and it's going to open up a list. And this one has 59 different titles. And if you are a Thomas Branigan Library card holder, you can go ahead and request them right from here. If you click on a title, though, you might be able to go ahead and get, you will be able to get a description of what the title is, if you're not sure what it is, and find out more information. And this tells you exactly where it's located. Like this is a picture book by Eve Bunting. This is fiction. Some of them are nonfiction, dogs and cats. So this is all oriented to children reading level. And so if you were looking to entice your children to read, this is where you might go to get more information. Are there any questions right now? All right, then I will move on. So as you can see, there's the list here for Thomas Branigan. And New Mexico State, I'm not going to jump on their website. They allow the public to go ahead, as well as the NMSU and the DACC community, any students, staff, or faculty, to check out books. Again, COVID restrictions may apply, but things are opening up, so it won't be long before people will be able to either request books and materials and have them picked up curbside, or they may be on a shelf that you'll be able to go in and pick them up from the first floor of the Zool Library. But by using the catalog, which is just like the catalog that we use at the DACC, you can type in a title here and get information. So if you're interested in finding out if NMSU has a copy of a book or a book on a topic, that's what you would go ahead and do. Their ebooks are not available to the public, although they do subscribe to the same Gale database. It's just easier to use the DACC link I just showed you rather than to navigate their databases. And it's not separated out by New Mexico residents versus all the ebooks that are available to NMSU students and DACC students. So the best way to do it is to use the link that I showed you previously. There are other New Mexico libraries that you might find reading resources for. Albuquerque and Bernalillo County Public Library is huge, and it has a very well-developed website and a lot of reading lists and a lot of good information that's out there. And then the New Mexico State Library has the New Mexico Center for the Book, which has additional resources. So the Albuquerque Public Library, things are a little buried there. Just like DACC and NMSU have researcher subject guides, Albuquerque Public Library does the same thing. So to access the area that is called Books and Literature, it is a subject guide. You will need to go to their homepage, and then under the research tab here, you're going to get these possible choices. And if you click on subject guides, you're going to get a page that will allow you to type in the title of the subject guide you want. And the one that we're looking at is the Books and Literature. And it has a lot of resources in it. It has information just on regular books that are coming, that are available, that they have just purchased, or reviews. It has a New York Times bestseller list. It does have ebook and audiobook collection. However, unless you have a public library card from Albuquerque, you won't be able to access that information. But a lot of the databases that Albuquerque Public Library subscribes to, also the Thomas Branigan Public Library here in Las Cruces does. So there may be an overlap of resources available that way. The other thing is it's got a lot of information about the book groups, the reading groups that they currently have in the city. And each one of these is a page that they have. And then at the bottom is a book list. And what it is a page of very either genre specific or read-alike specific, could be award winners. There are a lot of different type of reading lists. So if you're interested in, let's say, a book that centers around people who use guide dogs or something like that, or a topic like Los Alamos, you could go to the book list and they might have a list of books related to that subject. Then again, they might not, but it's a good place to browse and learn, especially if you find your favorite topic, maybe Westerns or science fiction or fantasy or young adult. They have a lot of different lists there. So this is a good place to get more suggestions on what you might want to read next. Now at the New Mexico State Library page, on their homepage, on the left-hand side is a list of subpages, and you can click on the New Mexico Center for the Book link, and you're going to get this page. And this is the New Mexico version of the one that is being run out of the Library of Congress. And there are some really interesting topics here, links to more pages, but the ones I want to highlight are, first of all, the literary map of New Mexico books, which I will talk about in just a minute in more detail. And then they have a summer reading program. And again, that has recommendations for reading for children and adults. And then Children's Day, Book Day, El Día de los Niños de los Libros, is a thing that is unique to the Borderlands area. We celebrate it, and some other Hispanic communities do celebrate it, but it's pretty big in New Mexico. And there will be some resources there if you're interested in that particular topic. Are there any questions yet? All right, we'll move on. Okay, New Mexico authors and books set in New Mexico. Sometimes you want to read something that has been produced by our very well-known writers who either live here in New Mexico, were born and raised in New Mexico, and sometimes you want a book that is set in maybe Santa Fe or Taos or even Las Cruces or Los Alamos. So anywhere in even Tucumcari and Grants, there are books out there. So the libraries in New Mexico have curated books about these two topics. Now from New Mexico State Library is the literary map of New Mexico, which I just showed you how to get to. And they also have a research guide, which is similar to the subject and research guides I showed you earlier from Albuquerque Public Library and also from DACC and NMSU. And they have one with New Mexico authors and books, and they are broken down into various topics. Albuquerque Public Library has a really good New Mexico authors subject guide. And then the University of New Mexico has put together a list of authors, and next to them are not titles, but are subject areas that they write about. Like if they write mysteries or they write nonfiction about a specific topic. So all of these could be places to go to get more information about your next read. This is what the literary map looks like for New Mexico. And it's not as well populated as it could be probably, but you have a good selection. Each one of these little dots corresponds to one of these books. And then if you click on the nonfiction, you're going to get nonfiction, obviously children's, and then New Mexico authors. So if you're looking geographically in New Mexico and you want to read something about Las Cruces, you could go ahead and find that out. And it's pretty interesting to just sort of hop around and see what's out there. Now, the research guide, the way you get to it is again on the home page of the New Mexico State Library, and across the top are several tabs. And if you click on the Research and Collections tab and go down to Research Guide, this is the same as with the Albuquerque Public Library and several other libraries. You'll get a search box and you can type in New Mexico authors and books, and this particular guide will come up. And they divided it into several different categories: classics, fiction, you know, any notable, notorious books, and even ebooks that are available through New Mexico Reads. And that is a program I didn't highlight on this one because we're going to be talking about that more in depth, at least Jose will, when he talks about New Mexico resources, and he's going to tell you what's available. But you can click on that and you can find out more information if that's what you're interested in. But the different authors are here, and then they go ahead and they give you a little bit of information. And then there's additional links to other things within New Mexico or other important libraries where you might get more information. So it's a way to learn a little bit more about an author and then possibly what books they have written. Now in the public library, again, the link that I have given you on the couple of pages before will take you to this subject guide. But it's the same way to go down. You would hit research, you'd do subject guide, and then you would type in New Mexico authors. And this guide pretty much has a list from A to Z of all the New Mexico authors. And then you can see more information about what's available through the public library there. There may be author websites or bibliographies or historical. So I just took an excerpt here. And as you can see, Rodolfo Anaya is part of the mystery series by New Mexico authors. And if you click there, you're going to get a list of information of which New Mexico authors write mysteries, and either a single or series. And then it talks about some of his works. And then if you go down, this particular author is a photographer and an illustrator of children's books, and he has a website. So you could click on there and go to the author's website. So there's a lot of information here that you could browse at your leisure. At the very bottom of this particular webpage is the mystery series we just talked about, as well as they have a list of science fiction and fantasy authors that have ties to New Mexico. Either they have lived here, are currently living here, maybe they're no longer alive, or they have very strong ties to New Mexico. And it could mean that means that they feature New Mexico in their books on a regular basis. But this is a really interesting website to explore a little bit more. And then at the end of this page, there's also a list of organizations if you yourself want to write a book that features New Mexico. Next group, are there any questions first? Our next group is a series of reading lists. There are a lot of reading lists out there. And I just chose a couple that I would highlight that you may or may not be aware of. The first one is Novelist Plus, and you get to this online through Branigan Public Library, but you do have to have a library card because it is a subscription that is that Thomas Branigan pays for. The next is called What's Next? Books in a Series, and it's being maintained by a library group up in Michigan. And the last one is a list of lists taken from libraries across the United States. So Novelist, first of all, like I said, you need a library card to access it. If you go to the reference and research link on the left, I showed that to you in a previous slide. If you click there, you're going to get a list of electronic databases and electronic resources. And one of them says Novelist Plus. And once you click on that, you'll have to enter in your library card information. And this is the website that comes up. And it goes all age groups. As you can see, you can have as little as newborns, if you're reading to newborns, all the way up through adults. And they also talk about audiobooks, book club recommendations. They do give an author read-alike. So if you like one type of author's way of writing or the topic that they choose, you can possibly find similar type of books available, and they'll give you recommendations. They do have feature articles under the quick links. It says articles, and they will talk about different genres, and they'll maybe highlight a particular very popular author or a type of subgenre within, let's say, science fiction or fantasy or even mystery, because there's always subgenres within the larger fiction genres. They also have, like I said, book club resources. So this is another really interesting website to go ahead and explore a little bit more if you're looking for books to read, maybe your next beach read or your next vacation read. What's next? Books in a Series website talks about, it gives you a list of books in a series. So it specifically focuses on series books, not just a single title, but books that have two or more books by the same author or a group of authors writing about the same topic. So you would put in here your author and his name. If you know the name of the series, in other words, many authors write mini series, or maybe you want just the book title, and you can choose adult or youth. That would probably be, it would include young adults, so it would be 18 and under. And then you have, if you want to go even further, you can do it by genre. And so I put in Anaya Rodolfo Anaya, and this is what I came up with. He said they know of, in the Sunny Baca series, that there are 4 books. And you can do a printer-friendly list. If you wanted to, you can click on here and it will give you more information about the book itself. Now, the last reading list hasn't been updated in a little bit. I'm not sure exactly why. So it is a list of lists. They've gone out and they've compiled library lists. Libraries are really good places to find recommended reading. There's, especially back in Ohio and back east, where there are a lot of Carnegie libraries. A lot of these libraries, their websites have tons of recommendations. This is one of the places where they've corralled all that information. It's the only one I could find. If anyone knows of any other, please let me know and I'll add it to our list of resources. But they have not only, they started off, it was part of a public library, and then it was moved when they reorganized the library website, and now it's being maintained separately. But it's got annotated lists of book lists. It's got a calendar of the author's birthdays, and it does include both fiction and nonfiction. So if you're not a fiction reader, that's okay. I mean, if you like true crime, or you like books about history or science, it will have some recommendations. It also has a separate section with resources for reading groups. It's well worth looking at, but I will warn you that you might click on a link and it might, because a library does reorganize their websites, and they may not realize that the link that to their original list was still out there in the internet. But if you know the title of the list, I would recommend that you find the libraries. If you get the 404 error, you go to the library's website and in their search box, type in the title of the list and you probably will find it. And it isn't that hard to recover. If that's too much, then go on to another list. I mean, there are hundreds of lists on this particular website. Any questions so far on those reading lists? Okay, I need to mention right now that many of the websites you're going to see from this part of the presentation on ask people who come to their websites to sign up for accounts. And that will allow you to get newsletters from the website, to access certain features that are only allowed for people who have accounts, and to participate in their giveaways and their reading challenges, which we'll talk a little bit about shortly. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, a lot of the information is available. However, you may end up getting a please join us message or a pop-up or something. And depending on your level of comfortability, you will need to create an account. Some recommendation has been, and I've talked to people in ICT, IT and things like that, is that if you're afraid your email box is going to get overwhelmed with things like this, that you go ahead and create a Gmail account just for reading. So all your information, all your newsletters, all of your giveaways, everything that is related to your interest in reading goes just to one email. And then, you know, you look at it when you want to look at it, and it doesn't clutter your primary email box. That is one way to get around this if you are concerned about just getting overwhelmed with newsletters and advertisements and things like that. Because some of the websites we're going to talk about, you know, they get revenue when you use their website. So they are constantly trying to entice you to come back and to look at their new material. So reading lists for maybe the younger readers, although the American Library Association's recommended reading list spans all genres and all age groups. And then I found two really good ones that I've used in the past as a public school librarian for recommendations. They're the ALA, American Library Association, then Reading Rockets and Read Brightly. So ALA, you go to their homepage, and then if you put in recommended reading, you're going to get to this particular research guide or subject guide. As you notice, a lot of these library websites use the same platform to provide their information. And they have all sorts of stuff in here. They have award winners, and they've broken out by age group, leveled reading. If you are a parent and you're the school that your children go to talk about leveled reading, you can get information about which books meet which level of reading. If you're a librarian or a professional in the library field, there's resources for that. And then they've got a diversity tab now. So there's a lot here, and they constantly maintain it, so you probably won't find any dead links. Now, Reading Rockets is really fun because you can create your own themed book list. They have featured book lists. They have all sorts of ones like Asian Pacific American history and culture. That's a current celebration that's going on. Or poetry, but they're all based for children, all the way up to 12 years old. If you want to look for a specific author, like which books have been done by them, or an illustrator, let's say you like a particular picture book illustrator, you can put that in and you can get a list. So this is one way to explore children's fiction. The next one is Read Brightly. And I have to say that this is sponsored by the publisher Penguin Random House. This is one, though, that I did see on their recommended reading lists. They do have other publishers, but primarily it's focused on what they release. And they have themes, and as you can see here, they go all the way up to probably, I would say 16, 17-year-old reading levels and things like that. And you go ahead and click on one of them. If you do a theme, then you can, they'll have their list broken down that way. And it's gives a list of books that you might want to share with, in this case, your teenager or your tween, that you would recommend. And if you're curious, if your children are bringing home books and you want to know more about them, this is one way to find out. I mean, you can plug it into Google, but they also give recommendations or read-alikes and things like that. The next section we're going to talk about, any questions first? All right, the next section we're going to talk about is recommendation and review websites. And there are a ton out there. The ones I took from here are ones I know personally that I have used or that came from several different locations' top reader recommendation websites. So I aggregated several different recommendations and these are what came up. There were a couple that said, oh, this is unique, and I included them as well. So we're going to go through these 8 pages and we're almost done. Can't talk about reader recommendation sites without talking about Goodreads. And there are pluses and minuses with Goodreads. They are in the process of revamping their website, and they have close ties to Amazon. So you need to keep that in mind. In fact, I think Goodreads is a subsidiary of Amazon now. But it is a great place to learn about what's coming up. And if you're not sure and you don't want to go to one of the others, it tells you which books are in the series. It's not always the most accurate, but that's okay. You get a lot of information, and they have links directly on each book page to Amazon. It's very prominent, but then you can also click on the links in other places like Barnes and Noble and some of the used book sites and things like that. And it will tell you if it's available as an ebook or if it is only available in print. It includes all genres and ages and nonfiction. An account is highly recommended because it will allow you to get to saved lists and things like that. And that's really what the Goodreads is known for, is that you can track what you've read and what you want to read. You can create a TBR or to be read pile, and you can, as new books come out, you can add them to the list. You can even make your own sub lists in there by genre or by recommendation, however you want. It's up to you how you want, but you have to have an account. It does have user reviews and recommendation lists. That is really what drives this. It's a community-based website. And so even though it might get 5 stars on Amazon, you can go and read what people say about it. And there's even a section where you can ask questions and you can put a spoiler alert and things like that. So those are what makes, that's the bulk of what Goodreads is. It's a community where you share your information. There are reading challenges. They have author news and interviews. And if you are part of the community, you can enter into a giveaway program where they have a list of books that they're giving away that they've gotten from publishers and authors. And it's a separate page, and you can enter each one individually, and you might win a book or two. Library Thing is another user-driven community. It's not as commercial as Goodreads. It does include all genres and ages and nonfiction. Again, an account is recommended because then you can track what you've read and what you want to read. It does have user reviews and recommendation lists. It has a giveaways program as well as an early reviewer. You agree if you get a book from an author or a publisher that you will provide a review on Library Thing for it. It is free. There is no charge for it. And it's in multiple languages. And one of the new things that you can do is you can also catalog movies and music. So it's a way to track your books as well. Book page. If you visit a public library on a regular basis or a bookstore, an independent bookstore, you probably have seen Book Page. It's a newspaper about the size of the Las Cruces Bulletin. And this is the online version of the print. It is, again, it focuses on all genres and ages, and it does include nonfiction. If you want their newsletter, and I don't know how often it comes out, but you would have to sign up for it. It includes a lot of book reviews. That's the main bulk of what the site as well as the newspaper includes. It does give you authors news and interviews. And then they have a topical feature, at least on the website, and occasionally I've seen it in the print version, where they poll their readers and they ask them to submit favorites for a specific topic or genre, or even a read alike and things like that. So you could browse through that on their electronic site. 5 books. This is a little bit different. Again, it's all genres and ages and nonfiction. As you can see across here, the top, there are a lot of different categories. They have a lot of books like lists. So if you like Gone Girl, they'll have a listing of books like Gone Girl using some of the psychological thriller aspects of that book. They do have user recommendation lists, but you have to create an account. What makes this one a little bit different, though, is that they interview experts in the field and get their recommendations. Like, for example, this particular lady here is a professor at Oxford University in Great Britain, and she's giving her best books on the Industrial Revolution. So there are some really interesting topics, a lot of them nonfiction, and it's just a different take of how you get your book recommendations. It's not a librarian and it's not another reader. It's actually an expert in the field. So they look through what's available and they make recommendations as if you wanted to become knowledgeable on a topic or wanted to read the best of the best, they give that information. Book Riot, a lot of people who look for books online or look for reviews know about Book Riot. It is advertising based, so they have a lot of that. But again, it's one of those things where if you want to participate, you may have to, they have a community. They do have giveaways, but there's a lot of stuff that's subscription based. So you have to just go through it and see what is available freely and what is that you have to subscribe to. One of the things you do have to subscribe to is the online book club, but they create podcasts. If you listen want to learn about books that way, they have a YouTube channel, which has some really cool information. They do cover all the genres and ages and nonfiction, and they do also have reading challenges. And a reading challenge, if you're not familiar with it, is that they will put out a number or a topic or some sort of measurement, and then they challenge you to fulfill it. So it might be 24 books in 12 months, or you're going to read books in different historical categories, fiction or nonfiction, or particular types of books or authors. And so there's many different types of challenges. So if that's one way to spur you to do your reading, this is a good place to, reading challenge is a good thing to possibly be a part of. This is a new one that is not well known. It is based in the UK, but it does have connections to public libraries all over the world. It focuses on fiction, but it has a unique way of finding recommendations for new reading. You can put in emotions, like you want something that makes you happy, you want something that makes you feel uplifted, or you're ready for a good cry. Anyway, it's got a list of emotions and a slider scale where you can tweak it, and then based upon that, it will give you a list of books. It may be very small, but it'll give you a list of books. And it is maintained by people in the publishing and the library industry over in the UK. You can do it by country, character and plot, and it gives you a list of plot points and characters to go ahead and check off, and then it will take that together and give you recommendations. Or if you like books, a particular bestseller, and it's listed, you can get a list of read-alikes, something that's similar to those bestsellers. I would recommend you try it out. You don't need an account. So it's a fun website to explore. Epic Reads is a young adult fiction. It is sponsored by HarperCollins publisher. And when I looked through it, I couldn't find any other publishers listed. So you keep that in mind. I mean, they publish an awful lot of young adult fiction, but not all of it. So everything's a little bit biased to HarperCollins. They have an awful lot of stuff that would appeal to young adults and teens, newsletters, blogs, a book club. They also have reading challenges and a giveaway program, news about their favorite authors, interviews, and they have online virtual events and in real life events as well that they sponsor. And so if you have a young adult in your family, or if you like reading young adult material, which I do, this is a really great website to explore that a little bit more. The last one, specifically for reading groups, because some of you might be a participant in a reading group, and you sometimes find it challenging to get the next book, or you want to start or join a reading group, and this gives you some more information. It includes both fiction and nonfiction. There is a monthly newsletter. You have to sign up. You have to have an account. There is a blog which talks about reading. They have reading guides. They have a searchable database. And then in part of their blog, they do profiles of reading groups across the United States. And then they also have a reading giveaway program, which means you can sign up and possibly get free books. Any questions? Okay, we're at the very last of our presentation. Couldn't go without mentioning these three areas. If you're not familiar with the Internet Archive, it's been in the news and plus and minus. They do have a books to borrow program, which allows you to check out an electronic or a scanned version of books that they have been able to acquire through their libraries that they're in their consortium. And so you will get a chance to possibly a book you couldn't find anywhere else, you might find there. Sometimes you download them, they're PDFs, sometimes they're ebooks. It all depends. I would explore it. Open library is more on getting information about a specific book. But I did find that in some cases, some of the records do happen to have a book attached to the record that you could either download or you could borrow from the open library. Both of those require accounts, obviously, for you to do that. But check it out. You might find something that you can't find anywhere else, that you can't get through interlibrary loan either. The Digital Public Library of America does have an open bookshelf. The ebooks that they have are public domain, so you can find them on Project Gutenberg and in several other locations, including the books to borrow. But they have classics, they have children's books, they have some textbooks, and they have books in other languages. It's not a big selection, but if you're looking for something that's a little offbeat or not available and you've tried to find other ways, this might be a place to go look. And finally, because some of our viewers might not live in New Mexico, they actually live in El Paso and they commute, don't forget the El Paso Public Libraries. And they have a lot of the similar type of resources I've shown you that New Mexico Public Libraries have and DACC. So I would recommend you check out their webpage. They have lots of lists, similar. They're about the same size as the Albuquerque Public Library as far as the website goes. So explore that. You might get some more information. All right, we're at the very end. We've gone over local, meaning Las Cruces and New Mexico libraries. We've gone over some New Mexico author lists as well as books set in New Mexico, resources for reading lists, and recommendation and review websites, and a couple of other unique resources you might find useful if you're into reading. Any questions? All right then. Our next library presentation will be in 2 weeks. June 16th at 10 a.m. It's going to be Jose Aranda, and he will be doing resources for hobbies like gardening and cooking and a bunch of other hobbies that you might be interested in, either to learn a new one, to learn more about the one that you currently are doing. If you want to register for that one, please contact Jose at that email address. And before we go, could you please go to the survey? And there's a link here, and Jose will put it in the chat, as well as the other links to our library webpage. Click on there and fill out the survey. We would really appreciate it, because it helps us improve our presentation.
Susan, I have 2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And probably, you know, I could go in and look them up, but just for the sake of anybody who may be watching this later, to get a library card from, like, let's say Albuquerque Public Library or New Mexico State Library or even El Paso Public Library or even Branigan, what's required? Do you know offhand? Are they all different or?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. My understanding, and I don't know if it's still in place, because this is what Becky Paso told me, is that you could have gotten an Albuquerque Public Library card during COVID. I don't know if you can still do that. Thomas Branigan on the homepage, that's the one here in Las Cruces, has a link for you to, and it tells you exactly what you need to provide in order to be eligible. And I think you have to live in Doña Ana County, but I won't guarantee that. You know, it's possible that they have expanded it, especially during COVID. Now, as we're getting back to the new normal, things may change, but for a while it was very flexible. New Mexico State Library does not require you to have any library card. However, there is underlying some of their databases, there's a way for them to check if you're, let's say, in El Paso or Colorado, when trying to access some of their databases. They check the IP address and they'll know by the range, by that, whether or not you're trying to get into a database that's not been paid for by your taxes because you're a New Mexico resident. I don't know if the incognito web browser settings circumvent that or not, because I don't do that. But right now, I would recommend that if you're outside of New Mexico, you need to look at your state library and maybe some of the larger public libraries in your state. I know that we can't get to the El Paso databases because we're not Texas residents. And a lot of it has to do with federal funding and state funding. That's why they restrict it. So each library has different requirements for getting a library card. And during COVID, and I don't know how long it will continue until they decide that they're going to change the way that they're doing business, that they did do business during COVID, where they were a lot less stringent. How long that will last? Does that answer your question?
Yes. And the other one,
yeah.
And the other question was, you know how you had the map of New Mexico with the books?
Yes.
Do you happen to know what the Las Cruces one was by chance?
No, I didn't look at that one. I was, it would be interesting to see. So you're going to have to go back and look at it yourself. If I looked at it, I don't remember it at this point in time. So
okay, thank you.
Maybe someone else knows. Well, I thank both of you for coming. And I look forward to seeing you all at our next presentation by Jose in 2 weeks on resources for hobbies.
Thank you.
Thanks.